Welcome back. Let's focus in on markets for a bit. Sushil Bhojwani, Managing Director at Greenedge Capital Advisors, is now with us. Sushil, I'm sure you track the markets and it's difficult to predict the index, but you look at mid caps pretty closely. So Nifty has hit a high, Bank Nifty has hit a high, but mid caps and small cap index are way away from the high. So the thesis is being that money would flow there. What is the sense you get about mid cap, small cap re-rating, and then we can go into micro stocks as well?
So, as you rightly said, that probably the broader markets have probably not been performing, but there have been specific stocks and sectors which have been kind of performing, in the last 2 or 3 months. It is also to do with the fact that you have seen a larger impact on the mid cap earnings. If you look at most of these mid and small cap companies, they had a larger impact on the margins this quarter, and that's why probably some of these stocks have corrected quite a bit. In fact, the margin hit has been as high as maybe up to 7 to 10 percentage points versus last year or maybe last couple of quarters. And that's where the reason is that there have been slight underperformance. But if you look at the commentary which is coming in from most of these companies, they are actually looking at on for a better H2 than the H1. And obviously, we have seen a lot of these commodity prices cooling off in the last couple of quarters. So that I think will have a positive rub-off on margins in the coming few quarters. The only, probably the reason they will have a slower top line maybe is for some of these export-driven companies who are seeing some kind of a slowdown in the US and Europe and UK. But as probably crude prices cool off and gas prices cool off, I think those countries will also start to kind of do well. And I think that is where probably we'll see some kind of growth coming back for these companies along with margins in the last quarter of this fiscal or maybe early the next fiscal.
We've always seen, Sushil, that new sectors get added to the mid-cap space and, how things move ahead. So which are the sectors in the mid-cap space which are looking interesting, which may not be a part of the large-cap space, but, how would you look at some of the sectors which are interesting in terms of either the numbers or the commentary, or because of changes in the macro outlook like crude and various others, it's become interesting?
So yeah, probably sectors which are like probably if you look at the textile sector today, those companies do not form probably a part of the larger say the top 50 or top 100 kind of segment. But still, if you look at those companies, they are very promising. Those companies have probably borne the brunt of higher cotton prices in the last 1 quarter, and probably some bit of probably slowdown in their customers in the US and UK and Europe. But as things move, I think this is one sector again looks very promising because there is a lot of government kind of push here in this sector. There's a lot of PLI schemes which are coming in the sector. Probably government wants this sector to flourish. There has been free trade agreements signed with various countries like Australia and Middle East. We have a couple of free trade agreements with the UK and the Europe probably in the pipeline, which probably get signed in December or January. That will give further emphasis to the sector. So I feel there are a lot of promising companies in these sectors, and I think this is one of the sectors which probably can do well going ahead. Apart from that, probably gas-related sectors where probably you would see certain companies which are probably on the CNG side, which have probably kind of been not doing well. I think those are the companies which can do well. Probably CNG LPG is one sector which probably can be looked at too. And then there is probably one sector which is probably doing really well now after COVID is the paper sector. And that is again one sector which I feel is seeing good tailwinds in the terms of the prices kind of being there and the demand being quite intact. So these are some of the smaller sectors which I feel which are not part of the maybe the top 100 club, but there are a lot of promising companies in these sectors.
Very good afternoon to you, Sushil. This is Cheryl also joining in the conversation, and you did allude to all the sectors that you are pretty upbeat on. So what are your top picks in those sectors? Which are the stocks that one can look at in the paper segment and the other segments that you've mentioned?
One theme which probably is kind of coming out also, which probably we did not kind of discuss about is the domestic focused companies are kind of going to do slightly better in the shorter term versus probably companies which are doing probably larger part of where the revenues are coming from exports. So when it comes to actually domestic focused companies and within these sectors, probably if you see a couple of companies, one of the companies is in the LPG sector, which is in the storage and container segment of LPG is Aegis Logistics. Now, this company has been kind of in the past doing really well because it's been the pioneer and the leader in the LPG storage, container and distribution kind of segment. There is a lot of demand coming in for LPG in various industries. So if you look at as closer to Morbi, where you have the larger part of the ceramic industry line, they have actually started using LPG as an input. There are various industries in the glass segment which probably started using LPG, and there are various other packaging companies which have started using LPG as an input. So what this company has done is they have also done a JV with one of the larger, LPG global companies, which is Royal Mobile. And through that JV, they are further kind of wanting to, spread their wings across various ports in India. And they are also gone into distribution of LPG, which was their primary, which was their business, but they was one of the focus business. But now the distribution business is slightly picking up. So that's why you see the commentary of the company kind of being very positive for the next couple of quarters based on the way they are seeing the container as well as the distribution, I mean the storage as well as the distribution business going. So I think this is one company which probably looks very promising in the shorter term with regards to the prospects of the business. Coming on the paper side, again, JK Paper is another company which we like, which is again is a market leader, in the paper segment. The positive rub-off which is coming in for paper companies is that the pulp prices globally are kind of really going high, and because the pulp prices are very high, obviously the input is kind of passed on here, and that's why the paper prices actually in India as well as across the globe are kind of trading very high compared to whatever you have seen probably in the last quarter as well. So again, this company is the leader in the paper industry, and their paper business is actually picked up post COVID. Once the schools and the offices have started opening up, they're seeing some kind of a cool off in the packaging business, but I think that will probably pick up in the next couple of quarters or so. So again,
Absolutely.
This is one company which is kind of doing very well in the
Right. Yeah, noted. Sushil, just quickly before we wind down this discussion, any disclosures that you want to make, because you have mentioned about some stocks?
Some of these companies we probably have recommended to our clients, and some of these companies would be having investments to our clients as well.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, Sushil, for joining us on the show and giving us your take on the broader markets as well as your topics in those sectors.